Hey, what's good, LBK? This is Robert Jenkins from the Focus Lubbock podcast. On behalf of all of the rest of the Focus Lubbock crew, including my brother Cambrell Miller and my son Mr. Nugent, we'd like to wish y'all a very Merry Christmas. We're recording this on Christmas Eve, and we wanted to take some time off to be with our family and friends and loved ones in the spirit of Christ, in the spirit of this magnificent holiday. And so we didn't record a live show, but what we did was we went into the archives and we pulled up a couple of interviews that we did, one of which is unseen and another of which deserves to be seen again. And we put those together and we are offering those for your consumption this week, this Christmas week. And before we get directly into those messages, those pre-recorded shows that we have in the vaults or in the can, as they say, we wanted to give a current Christmas message. And we kind of wanted to preface that by saying, Christmas seems to us to be one of those holidays where it seems to be the only holiday where it's okay to say happy holidays. Because I've never heard anybody referring to Halloween and look at you and say happy holidays. I've never heard anybody referring to Hanukkah look at you and say happy holidays, or Kwanzaa, happy holidays. They say happy Kwanzaa, happy Halloween, happy Hanukkah, I guess. But when it comes to Christmas, people say happy holidays. And that to me seems like that's been deliberately programmed and inculcated within us to slight Christianity for some reason. Christianity is supposedly not inclusive and it's supposedly problematic in many ways. But I would say that it is not those things. And in fact, it is the basis not only of this holiday, this Christmas. Christ is the basis of Christmas, but Christianity itself is the basis of Western civilization. And why that's so important is because in Western civilization, one of the reasons that we are so great and such a good and such a source for good is because we believe in the power of the individual. And the power of the individual comes from believing in Christ and believing in the Christian God. If I'm not a minister, so I don't want to get too deep into the theological aspects of this, but what I would like to do is briefly quote one of my favorite writers. It's a gentleman named Dr. Paul Craig Roberts, and he's a former Assistant Secretary of the United States Treasury. He's also a former assistant editor of the Wall Street Journal. And every year he writes a Christmas column. And I think it's been roughly the same column since the 1990s. So he just republishes it every year. And I like him a lot because his writing is concise and clear and his logic is unassailable and hard to argue with. And this year's Christmas column, he published it as usual. And I'm just going to read a few paragraphs from it and kind of summarize before we get into our original content. So here we go. Christmas, he says, Dr. Paul Craig Roberts says, is a time of traditions. The decorations and gifts of Christmas are one of our connections to a Christian culture that has held Western civilization together for 2,000 years. In our culture, the individual counts. This permits an individual person to put his or her foot down, to take a stand on principle, to become a reformer, and to take on injustice. This empowerment of the individual is unique to Western civilization. It has made the individual a citizen, equal in rights to all other citizens, protected from tyrannical government by the rule of law and free speech. These achievements are the products of centuries of struggle, but they all flow from the teaching that God so loved the world that he sent his son so that we might his son to die so that we might live. Repeat, all of those teachings about the individual flow from the belief that God so values the individual's soul that he sent his son to die so that we might live. By so elevating the individual, Christianity has given him a voice. Formerly, only those with power had a voice. But in Western civilization, people with integrity have a voice. So do people with a sense of justice, of honor, of duty, of fair play. Reformers can reform, investors can invest, and entrepreneurs can create commercial enterprises, new products, and new occupations. The result of all of that was a land of opportunity. The United States attracted immigrants who shared our values and reflected them in their own lives. Our culture was absorbed by a diverse people who became one. All of those paragraphs are in the beginning of Dr. Paul Craig Roberts' Christmas message. Toward the end, he says, all Americans have a huge stake in Christianity. Whether or not we are individually believers in Christ, we are all beneficiaries of the moral doctrine that has curbed power and protected the weak. To me, those things seem self-evident, and nobody is saying that the United States or Western civilization in general is perfect. But we are one of the main civilizations of all civilizations on the planet that has striven to reach perfection. And it's because we have been empowered by the concept that we are made in the image of God and that God loves us each so much that he sent his son, Jesus, to die for us. Those Christianity-centered teachings do indeed form the basis of Western civilization. And again, we don't implement them perfectly, but we try mightily to. In fact, if you watch the rest of this broadcast, you'll see two individuals who, as far as we can tell, seem to be striving mightily to reproduce the principles of Christianity on earth. And these are two individuals that have taken it upon themselves to do good works year round, not just in the time of the holidays. And so it's well and good to hear from them. So check out these interviews from Mrs. Sandra Chatham and from Pastor Bill Stubblefield. Y'all take care. I hope you enjoy, and Merry Christmas. What was your own personal organization called?
It's called Home Ministries. Let me tell you how home started. I had been on a mission trip. I had been to South Africa and I had been to Guatemala. I turned on East Dartmouth Street off of Martin Luther King, and I thought, like, this look a whole lot worse than where I've been. I've been past the mission, going to mission.
Wow.
It was horrible. I mean, and it don't look too much better now, but I thought, like, man, I done spent all this time. I was in Africa for 3.5 weeks, down in Guatemala for like 13 weeks. And I'm like, I done spent all my vacation. I saved all this vacation, and I could have just been keeping that vacation and just picking up trash and helping the people in my neighborhood.
Hey, what's good, LBK? This is Robert Jenkins. Got my brother Cam Miller here. We at the Patterson Library as usual, and we are joined by Mrs. Sandra Chatham. If y'all saw her on a previous episode, she's the homeowner coordinator with Habitat for Humanity. But when we were talking with her that time, man, we discovered that this lady is active in the community in many different ways. So we had a whole other episode that we realized we could wring out of that interview. So we decided to talk to her about what was your own personal organization called?
It's called Home Ministries. And that's what the acronym is, helping others move forward economically and emotionally.
Helping others move forward emotionally and economically
and emotionally.
So first of all, I already think that's a dope acronym. Whenever you have an organization, you got to have a dope acronym. Your acronym got to be dope. You know what I'm saying? I don't know why that is, but it's true. It'll work better if your acronym is dope. So I like that. Home. Can you tell us a little bit about what y'all do for the community?
We're a nonprofit, and what we do, let me tell you how home started. I had been on a mission trip. I had been to South Africa and I had been to Guatemala. I turned on East Dartmouth Street off of Martin Luther King, and I thought, like, this look a whole lot worse than where I've been. I've been past the mission, going to mission.
Wow.
It was horrible. I mean, and it don't look too much better now, but I thought, like, man, I done spent all this time. I was in Africa for 3.5 weeks, down in Guatemala for like 13 weeks. And I'm like, I done spent all my vacation. I saved all this vacation, and I could have just been keeping that vacation and just picking up trash and helping the people in my neighborhood. Because I live on East Brown Street, and I had to turn to get there because the other part of the street I couldn't get in because I live in a dead end. And I thought like, oh God, I got to do something about this. I went to church, talked to my pastor, and talked to some of the women's in the church. You know, the women's can get stuff done. Mm-hmm. Don't get me wrong. The women's can get, and I sat down and talked to him, and I didn't actually come up with it. Vasilia Mann came up with it. She said, this is what we'll do. We started a diaper closet, because we was having the problems with diapers and getting people to the clinic. They had a Second Baptist have a children clinic down on Avenue A that's been there since the early 60s. Mm. And so we started doing that. And then when we started doing that, we found out the people in the neighborhood just couldn't function because they didn't know financial literacy. So they were moving from apartment to apartment and needed diapers and just self-help skills because of that. And that's how we came up with that. And so we got it organized through the church and left the church. And what I mean by left the church, we started doing it in the neighborhood. We moved on right on at 406 North Zenith in the old Parkway Gym and started working out the Parkway Gym. And we found out a lot about the neighborhood. When we got over in the neighborhood, they needed not on that, but they needed education skills. We had a lot of young single parents that didn't have GEDs and stuff. So we went out and started knocking on doors and started doing GED programs with other people. We partnered with a lot of people because we didn't have the fund. But we wrote a couple of grants and we organized and got a board. And we had people like Ted Liggins on the board and Tyler Green, and he's an attorney too, and a couple of other people. We had Sam Law at one time, you know, that was helping us out. And so we just got together, wrote bylaws, and got it going. And just been blessed down through the years just to assist people. And what we found out is, you know, we had people that was living in houses over here that was in grandma's name and they hadn't changed them out. So then we went to Legal Aid and started working on stuff like that. Our kids came down and they said that they weren't able to read and stuff. So we started going into Irving, Alderson, seeing what the problem was. Just go start reading to second graders and kindergartens every day. And we found out mama don't know how to read, so the baby don't know how to read. Mm-hmm. And it started from there. So we go in, we do Good News Club at Parkway Guadalupe Center. We do Good News Club at Irving. We go to Irving and read. We go to Kimona and read. Now they put all the kids at Kimona. You know, they took Guadalupe, Jackson, and made one big school. And we go to Kimona on a Tuesday and do a reading program. Mm-hmm. We get the reading books. We work with Literacy Lubbock, and we work with Texas Tech University. We found out from having a gym over on Zenith that we had a lot of boys that played basketball. That was great basketball players, but couldn't read.
Right.
So we went down and got people like Senators Dustin Barrow and people like that to send some of them to Civitan. You know, it's the things like that you got to work with. Our people just need to be helped. We change lives one household at a time. You know, you can go into one household and, you know, we're still working with people that we know. And we work a lot with the CPS Kindred programs because we had a lot of people over here that weren't familiar with the CPS Kindred program. Mom's in jail, mom strung out, grandmama got the baby. They'll pay them through CPS to keep those kids. You know, and that's the kind of things we teach people. Hey, you got your grandbaby. Do you know about this? And they don't know.
What's the name of that? CPS?
It's the Kindred program.
Kindred?
Uh-huh.
Oh, CPS Kindred. Man, see that right there is awesome. So,
and, you know, they have so many programs up under the kinship program. Is, you know, grandma could get a check, grandma get all kinds of assistance, but nobody never taught our people that. Mm-hmm. So that was another adventure. And we teach parenting classes. We have people like Pastor Brooks, and, you know, at that time, Pastor Brooks came in and did a couple of parenting classes for us in the past. He's doing some, and, you know, we try to get people that look like us. So we had Billy Russell do some parenting classes for us, just teaching people how to parent. A lot of people have kids and don't know what it is. They just have kids, you know. Exactly. But you got to teach them the parenting skills.
I'd be curious to know what kind of stuff do y'all teach them? What parenting skills?
And parenting skills, they just sit down and talk with them and, you know, just go over, you know, how a family structure is supposed to be. You know, you could be a single and you could just had a baby when you're 16, 14, 15, 16, and nobody taught you how to take care of the baby. And you just teach you that, you know, in the long run, you're going to have money sooner or later. If you don't have none right now, just thank the Lord for what you got and just bring up the child the best way you can. And you don't know how to bring the child up because you've never been taught. You know, do some biblical teaching on sometime, and sometimes it's just mother wit. Everybody don't have biblical, everybody, God want everybody to be biblical, but everybody's not. But, a lot of people just need mother with. You don't have to spank the child. You can sit down and talk to the child and make sure the child's at school. My baby not going to school because they don't have no Nike tennis shoes, but your baby got flip-flops, send him to school. Or you going to be down at the truancy office. Yeah.
Right. So basically, what you said to begin with blew me away when you was over there doing missions and came back and saw it was worse here.
Yes.
Than what you saw overseas, Africa and places like that. That's a lesson in that. It means start at home.
Yes.
Do what you can do for yourself. Basically.
That's the way I felt about it too. You go to places like Soweto outside of Johannesburg in South Africa, and you go to places like Swaziland. Those people walk 15 miles just to get some medical attention. They'll walk 15 miles just to hear you talk. And people in Lubbock, I wouldn't even walk around the corner, and they still don't, we don't attend city council meetings. We don't attend neighborhood meetings. In the neighborhood associates, they giving out big money. They finally got a city planner and stuff, and the city of Lubbock is trying to revitalize a lot of stuff, and they want to, but they don't know how. We the only people that can revitalize our own neighborhood because we live in a neighborhood. We know what's going on. Anytime when you get an opportunity to go to city council, or you get an opportunity to go to your neighborhood meeting, Parkway Cherry Point meet every third Tuesday. Dunbar Manhattan meet the first Saturday, and Chapman Hill meet the third Saturday. We need to have people come out to these neighborhoods that live in these neighborhoods that we can get some kind of plan down. They have the master plan and all that. The 2040 plan, they did it 20 years ago and still haven't done it. But we got to get somebody out there fighting, telling them, hey, we're here and we still need to be revived and we still need to get this plan to work.
Right. And just in case you curious and you want to know, the city planner for the city of Lubbock is a gentleman named Wilson Bowling. And you can go on the website and look under, if you put in the search bar at the top of the website, just type in planning. It'll take you to their page, and then you can contact them through that page. I'm sure there'll be a phone number right there. So the gentleman's name is Wilson Bowling. And I heard he was really, really doing some good work.
He do some good work, but he can't do it alone. It's the neighborhoods that are gonna have to come out and start back working. They can give us all kind of money, and but you get the money, you can't do nothing with it. When we got $10,000 in the Parkway Cherry Point neighborhood association, we meet every month, and we might have 2 people. When we got money, everybody came and tell us how to spend the money.
Oh, of course.
We gotta get where we can lean on each other. Like they did in that the fight down in Birmingham, maybe right in Montgomery. Yeah. That's where we got to get in Lubbock. Like now they fighting for air quality and stuff like that. We got to get people educated enough to know why we fight for air quality. It's been hot and you can smell the air over here. It's just like when they had farm pack out here. It's getting to be back like that. And we got to understand when they talking about industrial over here in this area, what it's all about. But if you don't go to your neighborhood associate meetings and stuff, and you don't know, you don't know.
Cam, don't you? Isn't that kind of one of your fortes right there? One of the things you kind of working with behind the scenes, that air quality and industrialization.
Yeah,
and
it was
like
the zoning. Industrial zoning. And as far as I'm involved, it just really came from noticing one day driving down 19th by May Simmons that I could see a film in the air, and I was just looking like, man, like that can't be healthy to breathe that in. Like, what is that? You know what I mean? And just I'm really at a stage where I gather information, and I try to be useful wherever I can. If I can be used, I'm a vessel of the Most High. So, and I'm a work in progress. You know what I'm saying? So I'm trying to be wherever I can be used, that I'm not being exploited or taken advantage of. You know what I mean? Like I'm with doing whatever, and I have no boundary. You know what I mean? Like she's saying, the weather, the temperature, the atmosphere, the neighborhood. Like I don't.
Like none of that matters.
I'm not. Yeah, you know what I mean? So, and I understand what she's saying, and what I would like to do is actually help these neighborhood associations kind of get coordinated with the community. And because like you say, why aren't people coming to the neighborhood association meetings? Why aren't people that are able to come to city council meetings at least come to one? Like, I understand the inconvenience of the time scheduling and work and family and everything, but at least one time, just let your voice be heard and you be accounted for. You know what I mean? So we can do that.
And I think that's why it's important that we get our young people in junior high and high school up through the leadership program that the city has, so they can see how the city government is ran. And I think once we get them trained, they can go and tell mom, this is so and so, this is the department that we need to call and stuff. So last summer the city did that job program with the teenage kids, and I think a lot of our kids got jobs, and they kind of came back to the neighborhood and kind of shook mom up a little bit. Because mom thought they was just getting a job, and they went out to work at the water department and say, hey mom, if you turn off your water and you do this, you can save money. Those are the kind of things that young people can be great access to a lot of elderly people, because we think we know everything, but we get our kids exposed to a lot of stuff that they can change it. And that's what I've been praying about, because I think the kids are going to come in and be a whole lot different than what we are now. And they not scared of anything. Yeah. Life doesn't mean anything to them. They'll kill each other.
And that's a disconnect.
Yes.
Too.
Yes.
And it's not a great thing.
Yes.
I do strive to see the different generations in our community have a better camaraderie, because the way I see the hierarchy is the elders, that's the knowledge and the experience and the wisdom. And the younger, that's the muscle, that's the grit, that's to get it done. You understand what I'm saying? And then in the age realm where we're at, we're kind of like the facilitator / we get active too. You know what I mean? Like I can still do what I used to do. Probably can't do it as long as I once could do it, but I can still, I can hold the wall up and I can do different things. And we have to get that. And it's kind of like that makes me think of like African history, like when you could think like the old elder under the tree, giving that oral history and passing it down. And it's kind of like the kids running around, they don't want to listen. But like I say, we're the ones that, hey, get over here and sit down and listen to this. And come on over here. You know what I mean? Like we all have to be an intricate part of this work, it's not going to work. And that's what I see a lot of people, they have great opinions, they have great ideas, but it's like, we need to come together. And when it comes to that conversation of, well, how do we get together? Oh, well, man, listen, I'm not going to talk to such and such. And it's like, how do we get past that division in the community where we all have a common goal? Let's put our differences aside and get these first goals done. Right. And then after that, we can say, well, man, the other day you cut me off in traffic. I didn't like that. You need to drive better. Don't drive so fast down these neighborhood streets. These kids are out here playing. We can get on that level later. But like I say, the first things like safety, like you say, the financial literacy, getting things done to actually bring things to our community, because I'm kind of for the cheese plant and all the stuff that's going on, but at the same time, what is the higher level of management? What does that look like? Because I've worked plenty places around here, these warehouses, driving CDL, and when it comes to that management, man, it's not diverse. You know what I mean?
The cheese factory is a different story, because the cheese factory came down and they took some of the people from the neighborhood to Colorado to see it. Okay. That's the kind of stuff they miss by not going to the neighborhood associations and stuff. Wow, yeah. They took some people to Colorado to see the cheese plant. It's going to be great for our neighborhood. They're going to come in and dump water in Lake Number 7, and they're going to clean it out a whole lot better than the city of Lubbock cleaning it out. That kind of stuff. That's the kind of stuff that people, our people perish for lack of knowledge. They would have just came out to the neighborhood associate meetings and figured out before they start talking about the cheese factory. The cheese factory is going to come in and bring all these jobs. And you know what Sister Chatham did? I asked them, hey, are we going to have a job fair over in May Simmons where my people that can't get a bus can walk over to May Simmons and get a job since it's in our neighborhood? That and the Hope Center that the Starker is building. What is it going to do for my people?
Right. And again, I agree with that 100%. And I would like to add that as far as the jobs are concerned, I'm talking about management too. If there are qualified applicants from our community that can be in those upper echelons of the company, I mean, as far as the localized, plant goes, because that would help with because we all know it's different when you go to work and it's your superior is someone that you can identify with, or they understand kind of where you're coming from. You don't, I mean, you can kind of let your guard down at work and kind of be yourself and actually work and not always be on pins and needles like, well, I don't want them to misconstrue this. I don't want them to think this the wrong way. And it's kind of like, hey, can we just come in and somebody, because I'm only saying this because I've had jobs where it's like, okay, for example, I was taught as a man, when you speak to another man, you make eye contact with them.
Yep.
You shake their hand.
Yep.
Okay. And I've actually done that before at work and got reported because a guy said I made him feel intimidated. And I was like,
was he a younger guy than you?
No, he was older than me. And I was like, man, how did I? And I explained to the HR that was not my intent. And just what I just told y'all, I thought I was being respectful.
That's precisely what you're supposed to do.
You know what I mean?
Somebody's supposed to look them in the eye, shake their hand.
And they kind of painted me out to be the angry black man type thing. So I'm just saying, just to have a little diversity at the workplace when certain situations come up, we have to be what they would say, our peers.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, that's why when people like when Amazon came, that's why I went out and, took a look around. I worked at Covenant for 40 years. I'm too old to get a job. I don't want a job. I don't want to work. I want to make my own decisions on where I need to be at, and what I want to do. That's, you work on a job 40 years like I did. I know exactly what you're saying. I worked in Phoenix at St. Joseph for 20 years, and I came to Lubbock, and it was like I was in Ku Klux Klan country.
Yeah, it's a different.
Because in Phoenix, it was Phoenix. Indian, Mexican, black people got along. Then I came back to Lubbock, and I grew up in Lubbock. I came back to Lubbock, and I'm in a position, and it's like, what's she doing? Everybody had a question, and it's because they're not used to seeing us. But when Amazon came, I went out to Amazon. They bought in some black people from different places, to help them because they knew what side of town they were on. That's the kind of stuff when they bring something to town, I always go and check it out. Whenever when Google opened up their new office on 66th Street, I went out and talked to Terry and those guys, because I got people in my neighborhood that I need to take out there, and I need to know what kind of program they're going to get in.
Right.
We got to start doing more of that. I agree with you on that. We got to get out and see what's out there. Even though I don't need a job, I got lots of people in my neighborhood that do, and I want to make sure that they get there and they get the things that they need, and we have all the qualified people in there. That's another thing that I do.
Right. So I was just about to say, that sounds like something I bet Home Ministries does.
Yes,
too.
We have to, because we're living in a time where, it's not anything. Everybody's educated now. Everybody go to school. Everybody got a degree. But when it come down to that black and white thing, it's still black and white in Lubbock, and we know it. So we want our kids to be the best, and they gotta go in and excel more than excel. They got to do double work in a lot of areas.
So do y'all have a service where y'all take people to appointments or?
I'm on a city bus board, and we city bus, the city bus has been great to us. In the past, they gave us passes for people. When we have some stuff coming up on the city bus in the future that's going to help us out over here, because city bus don't go out to driver's license place but once a week.
Oh wow, yeah.
Stuff like that. Right. They don't run out to, and now we got Amazon and Budweiser.
It is a lot in the business part,
and they don't run that away. So so they had some people come in on city bus, some auditors, and and they had some people come in and take it. And in the future, they're gonna change it. They did demand service at city bus last year, and what demand service is that anybody you can go on the app and call, and you can go to HEB for $2. You can just be on a bus, and it's just a little van wagon. It take you out to anywhere in the city limits. You can go for $2 if you get on the demand service.
How do you get on that demand service?
Look on the phone app. Look on your phone, or look in the phone directory and get city bus app and call them up, and it's gonna be you and the only person on there, but it go anywhere in the city limits.
Okay.
There's some kind of there's a certain restriction for handicapped people and stuff like that, and we have to give kudos to city bus. When COVID was out, city bus was the only people that was helping us out. Everybody else was good. United don't deliver on the east side of town. And HEB wasn't delivering, but when COVID came, HEB came in and started delivering on the east side of town, and City Bus came and started taking our people somewhere over here. If we didn't have City Bus, a lot of our people would have perished. We did City Bus over here at the library where they bought out, help the health department bring out the vaccinations and stuff like that. But that's really when the demand service start, and they run from like 7 to 7. Sometimes, if it's a medical comer, they run from 7 to 11 at night. And that's the kind of stuff we our city stuff isn't bad. You know, and people like HEB and United, you know, they had stuff up during COVID. We had more brown and black people die because they weren't educated, and they stepped up. But United still don't. They over in our neighborhood, and they still don't deliver.
And you know, Miss Chatham, I don't mean to take this conversation somewhere it's not even going. But when we speak about United, what can we do as a community to get united? To get our United? At least like it don't even have to be a Market Street, kind of Amigos or something. You know what I mean? Like
stop your cousin from going over there putting hams and turkeys in between their legs, and, you know, at United. You know, I went over to United, and the old manager Red, he left. He had been there for like 15, 16 years. Mm-hmm. They were taking the baskets out there, the Jarvis, and selling them, and I'm like, what the heck?
Well, that's why it's no baskets out there.
So they were doing what to the baskets?
They're taking them out to Jarvis Metal and selling them for the metal piece.
Wow.
And you know, and
how could they accept that? They know that's a United cart.
And that's how we found out. The guy Jarvis Metal called and he had called one of the girls at home ministry, one of the girls on my board, and was asking her about it. And so she called me, and I was like, and she's an Anglo girl. She called me, and I'm like, what are you talking about? Mm-hmm. And she said, Jarvis Metal today, they got 15 baskets from the United on Parkway Drive, and they was trying to find out who they need to talk to. Mm-hmm. And I said, Shavonic over at the East Side Police Department. That's who they need to talk to and find out how they got out there.
Was this recent?
It was like 2 years ago.
Okay, because I know just recently, man, we're at the United.
Yeah, they don't put them in there. No,
it was like 5 of us standing there, like, where the baskets at? Like, but it wasn't a lot of people in the store.
They try to put them back out in the last 6 months, but it didn't work again.
Right. So I'm so glad that you said what you just said, because that's something that I'm big on, is placing the responsibility and the blame for stuff where it belongs. I call it the pointer principle. Don't get me to preaching and stuff up in here, but when you pointing your finger, the white man isn't it, United that and all this, well, there's 3 fingers pointing back at you. Mm-hmm. And like you just said, United could do a lot of stuff over here if, like what you say, your cousin them.
Yeah, but at the same time, I mean, like, because all right, for instance, I was in United, and I'm the type of person, anything I purchase, I'm looking at the ingredient list and the sell by date, right? Mm-hmm. So as I'm in the United, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, man, a lot of this stuff is past the date, and I'm like, man, it's not. I'm like, man, it's crazy. So you know, I go tell who's ever in that department, hey, you know, you kind of got this out of date, that's out of date here. So I'm standing there, and his brother walks up, and we're both shopping, and I stopped and I looked at him, and I looked at his hands, and I said, hey man, make sure you check those expiration dates on your thing. And he was like, what you mean? I showed him, and he looked, and my right hand to the Most High, everything he had was past date. And he was like, man, I never paid attention to that kind of stuff. And I was like, bro, I usually didn't until I bought a loaf of bread here one day, and the next day that whole loaf of bread was molded. And I looked at the date, and it was past date, and I was like, I'm not gonna do that again. And that's what I mean, not to cut you off, but that's what I mean by helping to get the United to a level. Like, I do understand the theft issue and all that stuff, and the what do they call that, vandalism and things like that.
I like how they call it shrink. When you steal it, they call it shrinkage.
Shrinkage.
It is shrinking. Yeah.
And I mean, like, because I asked the manager in there one day, like, how do we get, you know, more of the organic products and a wider selection of like fresh produce.
Yeah. And that's something that we do. We try to take the girls out. We we've been using the food bank, but we use United Market Street on 19th Street too, because they don't have a nutritionist over here. You know, and that's been one of my complaints too. How you gonna teach people how to eat healthy when they ain't got nothing to eat healthy over here?
Exactly.
That's been one of my complaints also. So we take them out to the 19th Street. But you know, everybody can't get out to 19th Street. One of these days, I'm not gonna have no gas, and one of these days, City Bus ain't gonna be able to take us out there. But we need that over here where we can teach them healthy stuff. And they don't bake over here. They bake out on 19 and bring stuff in, you know, and stuff like, so yeah, you might get some donuts that's 7 days old. I've complained about that before. take that stuff off the shelf and give it to somebody that could use it. Send it to food bank or just go open game with it.
Yeah.
But yes, it's a lot of that over there.
So you think it is a noticeable issue?
It's a very noticeable issue.
I know it has to be.
That's why I started going over there, and I'm saying that about the hams and all that. That's the excuse they use. And I start telling people, hey, no, you start making it better. Right. I go to United, you go to United. If all us go to United, we spend our money at United.
Right.
We can call R.C. Taylor that when he used to be on the board at United. We can call him and complain to him. Now they got so much stuff that's through Aberson and all that. But yeah, we can still do the same thing. See something, say something.
I think what they need is competition.
Yeah.
If it was a way to bring a competitive grocery store or something comparable, you know what I mean? Maybe even if it's just a farmer's market type thing that's out in our community, they'll start seeing like it's people in the community that would. I mean, even you can even use the food stamps to buy organic food. So
the farmers market used to be down there on Avenue A and 19th Street, and it made a lot of difference. You're exactly right about that. It made a whole lot of it made a lot of difference.
They moved that one.
This year they moved it to Luca. The Luca.
Right over here. Okay.
It's still there. It's still every Saturday.
And that brings up another thing. They have the Washington Garden down there.
Yeah.
I go down there and get herbs and stuff from down there. That's the best thing that ever happened to our neighborhood.
Oh, the community garden. That's where my wife was just saying when she took my girl.
And people look at me and they say, well, where did you buy this rosemary? I didn't buy this. I went down there and got that out of that garden. And they had red stuff like red okra, purple hub peas. And they talking about, what is this? I don't know. I like to eat.
Yeah.
And fresh food is a whole lot better for you than that. But we need to start taking advantage of stuff like that too.
Where's that garden located?
It's located on Date and right off of Date in 19th Street, Chapman Hill.
Okay.
It's called the Washington Community Garden.
Oh yeah, over there on A.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, okay. I know exactly where that's at. Huh.
And you can go over there and get they got all kinds of rosemary and cilantro, sweet potatoes and greens. They always have the stuff that you always looking for most of the time.
Right.
Green tomatoes, everybody want me to fry them tomatoes, but sometimes they have the best green tomatoes,
I hear that. Is there anything else that you want to tell us about home ministries?
What I want to tell you about home ministries is we're getting a new location. We're taking the old building down the street that used to be Starcare. We're in the process of getting some grant money to redo that so we can get stuff back in our neighborhood, like CPS visitation and, more parenting classes and more life skills. There's a lot of people, now that we revitalizing the East Side, everybody want to be Goodwill want to come over here. South Plains College want to come back over here, but we got to remember it's nothing like having your own stuff.
True.
If we don't get a building, Danielle's got a building up there. Danielle East, support your local stuff and support your local people. Don't try to go out and, do something else. Somebody try to talk you into doing something. Get them in touch with us so we can help out. We can help them out too. We don't mind Goodwill coming over here, but we want to be on a Goodwill board.
Yeah. And one thing I would like to throw in with what you're saying is that we need to get, I think, and I would like to see all of the committees and nonprofits and things that we have in our community to start working a little closer together because we all have the same goal.
We really need to start working closer together because, we the people that's going to hold to make the knit ball come together. We all got to work together. That's something that I really push and I really, like back to school. We've been doing back to school for like 13 years. We started buying uniforms. Now everybody, my next door neighbors went to 7 back to schools and they got 7 pens when they need, they got 7 pencils when you need 48 pencils. That kind of stuff. We could have got together as a nonprofit and stop wasting all that money everybody having when they do one
big. It could have been on a great grander scale. Yeah, exactly.
And paying rent assistant and stuff like that. Yeah. If I don't have the money, I could talk to somebody else and get it. It's not a me thing. It's a we thing.
Exactly.
And when it comes down to the neighborhood, that's the only way we're going to revitalize and keep it strong as we work together as nonprofit and together as people, period. Just start back being neighborly.
Right. And I think that's self-accountability as well as holding each other accountable as a community.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
How can people get in contact with you at Home Ministries?
At Home Ministries, you can contact me. You can look on my webpage, which is at homeministry.org. And you can also call me on my personal phone. I'll give my phone number out because, it's everywhere. It's 806-786-2058. If I'm not answering, just leave me a message. And, if we can't help you, we got lots of other resources. We got a lot of other nonprofits. We got volunteer center, but most of all, we got people over here that can help you. We want to go here first in East Lubbock and to our people first before we try to go somewhere else. And we can pretty much find you whatever you need. If we don't know what the city have, we can call the city, we can call the state, we can call each other. And if they can't do it, sometimes we have to, just shell out a little cash. We're not the richest people in the world, but we can get together and
resourceful.
And we're very resourceful. Yeah. We can pick up some of them beer cans and stuff, clean up out here and get you some rent money. It might take a little work from you also.
Right.
That's the most important thing.
Right.
Yeah. Like, how can you expect help if you're not? That's what was like. I have a friend, and I remember his mom came. It was when we were younger, like out of high school, but not yet 20. And you kind of trying to figure out. Some people already had that path and they know straight out, man, I'm finna go do this. And we were kind of like just out here, floating around in life. And I remember his mom had came by because we were roommating together. And she was like, what you doing, man? You need to get up and you need to this, that, and the third. And he was like, well, I just need, you're always telling me this, that, and the third. I just need help. And she looked around. And she said, help doing what? All you doing is laying on the couch. She said, you have to actually be doing something to need help. You need to get help. Like, what am I going to help you do? You want me to fluff the pillow up under you? Rub your feet? What is help? Now if you up doing something, then I can see, she like, let me grab that for you. Let me move this. That's help. So that's another thing to say that's very interesting. You say that. You can't expect somebody to just come lay it in your lap. And because they don't nobody care about me. I can't get no one. It's like, man, show some initiative. And when people see that makes people want to help. Like when they walking outside carrying and it's hot and that makes people be like, let me pull over. Hey, do you need a ride? Do you need a, but if you're not. Yeah.
And that's a great opportunity, because, they can go out to, workforce and they'll pay them to do something. They give them child care. We don't have a lot of child care. We need affordable child care and affordable housing and transportation over here. The three most important things that we need over here. But they can catch the bus out the workforce and they can get on some of their programs and they'll give them child care and give them a gas card that they can put the gas in somebody else's car to get where that's the kind of stuff we got to teach our people. And if you don't say nothing, we don't know you need help.
Exactly.
So it sounds like to me you're saying that there's a lot of resources out there that people don't know about.
Yes.
And it's a lot of people out there that need help that ain't raising their hand saying they need help. So it's bringing the two together.
Yes.
And we sure appreciate all the efforts that you have made trying to bring them two ends together and help them ends meet. It's been great having you as a guest on today and learned a lot. And
we hope to have you back again.
Thank you.
We're extending that. Yes, ma'am. Just extending that invitation. So. And you're always welcome, yes. Yeah,
before we go, give that contact out information.
My contact number, my phone number is 806-786-2058. You can look on homeministries.org and just send us an email, call us, anything. Just ask somebody where you can get some help. Send them, come our way. And we're looking forward to you guys helping us further in the community and let us know when we can help you guys out. Thank you so much for having us.
We will. Thank you. All right, LBK, thank you for tuning in once again. Also want to say peace and give a shout out to the AKAs. If y'all heard, I don't know if y'all heard all that celebration and happiness over there. I'm a Sigma man myself, but I ain't got nothing against the AKAs. They think they cool, so I guess they cool with me too then. All right, anyway, y'all have a good week, and man, I hope y'all got something out of this interview. Y'all take it easy. Yes, sir. Peace. Hey, what's good, Lubbock? This is Robert Jenkins, and I'm sitting here at the Patterson Branch Library with my partner in crime, Cam, and we have a very special guest in the, I was going to say the studio, in the library with us, and that's Pastor Bill Stubblefield, and we're going to get into a real good conversation today, but before we do, I want Pastor Stubblefield to please introduce yourself, and I know y'all probably know all about him, but just in case you don't, let's do a little quick introduction here. Sir, please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, Brother Robert, first I want to say thank you and Brother Cam for having me as a guest on the podcast. It's an exciting honor and privilege to be here. You could have chose anyone else, but I'm humbled by the fact that you had me. And thanks to the man behind the scenes, Brother Nate, doing his thing as well. I pastor a church called the Difference Makers Fellowship. We started, my wife and I, we co-pastored together, and we started this ministry about 13 years ago in our home, and then God quickly moved us out. And for about 10 years, we were located at 224 Buddy Holly, but now we're at 517 North Zenith, which is formerly the George Woods Community Center, a space that was occupied by Star Care over the last few years. But we were blessed and honored to have the privilege to come in there. The other thing that I do, I serve the community as the vice president of the board of trustees for the Lubbock Independent School District. I'm in my second term, my 8th year of those 2 terms. And it's been an adventure. We've been able to do some great things since I've been on the board. And I thank God for the opportunity that he has presented me over these last few years.
Awesome. See, you already said something that it's aside from our real subject today. And our subject today, by the way, it's going to be about how do you know when God is speaking to you? How does God speak to you? And that's just something that Pastor Stubblefield and I was working on a project for the city of Lubbock a while back. And while we were doing the voiceover recording, we was just chatting, and he mentioned some things and I mentioned some things. And then I said, oh man, he got a lot of good stuff to talk about. So that's the main conversation is, how do you know when God is talking to you? But when you just said, right now, you just said y'all started at the house and then moved to the outside. And I'm like, oh, see, I want to know how you do that too. But we'll say that for another time.
Okay.
Cam, you got anything for us, bro?
I don't. I'm actually looking forward to jumping into this conversation.
All right. Well, shoot, without further ado, I guess I'll just give you the overview. I think there's three methods. Three methods. So y'all stay tuned here, man. There's 3 methods. Don't miss one of them, because that might be the way God want to talk to you. You know what I'm saying? Pastor, please enlighten us.
So it was something that I believe, and I want to preface this by saying this is based on my own research as a biblical scholar. My degree is in religious education, so it's not necessarily in an in-depth study of interpretation, which is a field of theology, but I've had extensive classes in biblical interpretation. And the reason why I bring that up in biblical interpretation, that is a precise way that we understand the Bible. When we're reading any textbook, any text, not just the biblical text, but reading any text, we as the audience or the reader, we're also an interpreter of what we're reading. The 3 things that exist in reading is the context, the audience, and the reader or hearer. Right. So what you have to know, and when I say audience, I'm talking about the audience of the day or of the time, any particular book that you read, whether it's a historical, factual book, whether it's a fiction book, there is an audience that the author had in mind. So you have to know what the author's intent was. Well, the reason why I bring that into play, because the Bible is authored by men, by people, by individuals, even though we believe it in faith, and most of our mainline denomination faiths believe it as the inerrant, infallible word of God, right? And so how did we get this word? Well, it was authored by men. Someone began to write down the oral tradition of the Bible stories being told. And we have those today. We still have the oral traditions of storytelling. When we go talk to grandmothers or great grandmothers, big mamas and pawpaws, they begin to tell you stories of their life, right? I think we've done a disservice. And I said this to Brother TJ Jr., Brother Thomas, and Sister Sheila here a few months ago. I told them, I said, please forgive me. I've done a disservice. I didn't sit at the feet of your father long enough and jot down the information that he was saying. I've got a great friend who's like a second father to me, Brother Johnny Daly. And that Daly family is so meticulous on their genealogy. They've traced their genealogy back for, I think, 123 years or so. To the very, very individual that the name of the slave ship and the individual who is the patriarch of their family.
Right.
And they hail from Arkansas. And so they've got land ownership in Arkansas that is tied into the state government that they are direct beneficiaries of. So that information, though, was captured by the folks who began to tell, well, Johnny had Kevin and Kevin had so on and so forth, right? Back in the day. And so they started writing it down and keeping it because it's recorded history, which is evident in the Bible itself, within the New Testament, particularly in the book of Matthew. Matthew, as an author of the biblical text, he records the genealogy of Jesus Christ all the way back to Adam, from the garden all the way down to Mary and Joseph, right? But he could not have done that without accurate record keeping. A lot of us as readers of the Bible don't understand that those people at that time are actually using recorded documents, okay, to do their penmanship and to tell their story. Well, there is a law that exists within biblical interpretation called the law of first mention, or the law of first priority, right? That simply states that the first time anything is introduced in the Bible, mentioned first in the Bible, or placed at the top of the list in the Bible, everything that follows it is part of the qualities and characters of that which first preceded it.
Got it.
Okay? So when we look in the Genesis account, the creation account is what we call it. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth was without form and void, and darkness covered the face of the deep, and the Spirit of the Lord moved over the darkness. And God said. So in the third action of God, he is speaking. So one of the first mentioned quality characters of God is that he is a communicator. Okay? Communication, 75% of communication is without words. Okay? So we get two other characters and qualities of how God communicates is through creating and moving, right? Then he speaks. And so in the speaking of God, since it's one of the first things that he does, God then, I teach this, that God is always speaking. Now, the Bible even specifically states that there was no word from God in the days and in the times where there was no word from God, that the people sought, we sought after the word. Well, the word in that time came from the prophets, in particularly in the prophet Amos. He states that, well, people are going to seek the word of God, but because of their disobedience and their rebellious spirit, they won't find it. So if you interpret that, it basically says, which we will all understand, it's not that God is not speaking. It's people are not listening because they're not hearing what they want to hear. Does that make sense?
Right.
So when we don't hear what we want to hear, we tend
you
to
ain't
not
talking
listen.
about nothing.
Yeah. And we want to believe what pleases our ears, right? So it's not that God was not speaking. People just were not listening, and thus they were disobedient. Because disobedience comes when you refuse to follow the instructions that you've been given. Well, the instructions are going to come how? Through communication. So God spoke. So that's laying the foundation of these three ways that we understand his voice. We have to understand that he is always speaking. There is not a time where God is not communicating to us. That time does not exist. Okay. So in the first mentioned moments, in the first moment, we have what we call the Bible because of those stories that were told over time about how God spoke in the moment. And in that moment and in that time, God used people to write down the events and the things that he put in their spirit, right? So the first way that we know that God is communicating to us, the primary way is through other individuals, That's how we have the Bible. That's how we have those guys that we call the authors of the biblical text. So God will give through his spirit an unction, motivation for that individual to say something, to write something down, to do something. So we always hear through other individuals first. in Romans, how can you hear without a preacher? Right? And God ordains preachers and pastors after his own heart. There's this thing that most of us agree with across the mainline denominational faith that is simply known as the call. The call. Okay. That's where vocation is a calling. And, that's literally in the original language what that word means, vocare, to call out, right? So the call is that thing that's on your life. Avocation is the job that you do associated with that call that's on your life. So you have the vocation, the call, and the avocation, the assignment attached to the call. So every man and woman of God testifies that they had this inner thing happening within them that is known as the call. And so those that God called in scripture, he also qualified. So you don't have to be qualified because God qualifies you. Amen. You don't have to qualify yourself to be called. God qualifies who he calls.
Right.
And so we get the word that comes through the voice of other individuals. And I submit to the audience, to those that are listening, and to each of us here, he usually speaks in threes. I found that in my own experience. So I teach this. When you've heard something, the same thing 3 or more times from 3 or more different individuals, I readily submit to you, I believe that God is speaking to you to give you instruction.
Wow. And of course, sounds like an echo of the Holy Trinity too.
Yes, because he is a triune agape God. So he speaks through he himself as the Godhead, through his spirit, what is now by the Christian faith, Christ in us, right? And then through the actions of Christ, his son, right? So when we hear the voice of the Lord, the scriptures say, in that moment, the day you hear my voice, don't harden your heart. Don't become obstinate. Don't turn it off or put me on mute. Receive the word of God. Most of the times disobedience occurs because we don't comprehend what God is saying. But comprehension is not a prerequisite for cooperation. Does that make sense?
So in other words, you may not understand what you're being told to do, but you're supposed to just do it, be obedient and do it. And that may be revealed to you on down the road. It might not be revealed to you down the road, but just do it.
Absolutely. It's as simple as I think we've all had this. The tendency is that we've had this experience. When we were children, mama said, don't touch that stove. Why? It's hot. But when we did not know what heat or hot was, we didn't have an experience associated to foundationalize our understanding. But mama was telling us for our benefit, not for us to be restricted or not permitted to grow or mature, but actually it was for our maturity and our growth. So when we got told as babies, as toddlers, get back, that's hot, that's hot, that's hot. We didn't know what hot was until we actually touched it and got burnt. You see what I'm saying? Then we realized it was ingrained in our that's what mama means by don't touch this, it's hot.
Right.
And one of the biggest things, one of the biggest images associated with an oven or stove is heat, right? As well as cooking and food.
Right.
But we understand that was for our benefit, not for our punishment.
Right.
Just don't touch it. So we didn't have to necessarily have an understanding, but the word does say, well, in all I get an understanding. So some of the times, and that sort of leads into the second way, or the third way that God speaks to us is through situations and circumstances, actual events. So I'll push back and go to the second way. So just to make clear, God, the first way that he speaks to us is through other individuals. And usually those, and it doesn't necessarily have to be an individual of faith. Because God can use who he pleases to use. But you can hear from a hustler on the corner. You can hear from just a person that you have, a stranger.
I mean, not to cut you off, Pastor, but it says that in Scripture.
Yes.
To be careful when you entertain people, because it could be an angel,
Absolutely.
and we don't know, and it's deep. But
It,
keep going.
it's
Like
deep.
I say,
It's deep. You know, you don't know
Intriguing.
who God is using.
Yes, sir.
But the scriptures also tells us that everything was created by him, through him, for him. So everybody has a divine purpose, whether they know it or not. Everyone does, because everyone is a piece of the puzzle of somebody else's life. You know what I'm saying? There's the phenomenon that's been made into a movie is the butterfly effect. You know, so I don't know if you know the principle of the butterfly effect.
Right. Supposedly a butterfly in China somewhere can flap his wings, and
There you
eventually
go.
the way it interacts with the physicality of the world, that could end up being a tsunami in
Yes.
America or something.
Yeah, but we're all tied together. You know,
right.
6 degrees of separation.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
You see what I'm saying? So nonetheless, he speaks to us primarily through other individuals, because we are the greatest and highest expression of his creation. Why? Because he specifically said, I made mankind in my image and in my likeness. So we are considered to be the highest expression of his creation. So with that being said, that's why he chooses us to use his voice to speak through us. He speaks. One prayer that I pray all the time before I deliver a message is, Lord, speak to me, speak through me, speak with me, speak for me, right? Because I have to understand that, and I believe every minister does this, that there's a time in the proclamation that you have surrendered to the Spirit of the Lord himself. And so it's not necessarily you that's speaking,
Right.
but it's the Spirit of the Lord speaking through you, to you and through you, right?
Yes, sir. You know what? Not to cut you off, but when you say that, that's something that I have experienced as a poet, and also just other times when I have spoken some words aloud. I noticed that there's sometimes when I'm writing a poem, my best poetry, I can definitely tell it ain't me writing it, because I have sat down before, and you don't know what you're finna write. I just have a funny feeling like, oh, I got to write something, and I get a piece of paper and write it down. And what I was thinking in my mind, the way that poem comes out, it ain't nothing like what I thought I was gonna write.
Absolutely.
And I didn't remember writing it, and I don't know why I wrote it. And I always ask myself, man, where does that come from? Is that my subconscious? Is that God speaking through me? What is that? Is it an ancestor?
It's a little bit of both of all. I think all of that.
Absolutely.
It is, and it's what I'm. Like I say, man, I'm intrigued to hear you keep going, because it's like lighting so many light bulbs of past things in life, and it's like putting a spotlight on it, and it's like clarifying something. Like, ooh, I have heard something 3 times from 3 different people that told me that, and I'm like, wow, yeah.
It seems deep, because even the scriptures say, deep calls unto deep, right? That means the breadth, the depth, the width of who we are cries out that our very existence is beyond our own comprehension.
Right.
I mean, man, it's miraculous if we ever really think about it, that our bodies have the ability to regenerate cells. The process is slow, but it is phenomenal. Just even, I mentioned earlier that my daughter is expecting their first child, her and her husband. And it is just amazing. So she's been tracking the growth of the child from within the womb, right? And so she's got this app. It's an app for everything nowadays. But it tells her how big the baby is right now. And so I remember she said, I think it was at 6 weeks, and she said that the baby is the size of a pea. Of a pea. You know, and so that's why I started calling her baby, whatever the baby is going to be, Sweet Pea.
Sweet Pea.
You know, but nonetheless, just to think that from a pea, that child shall be, from something that small, right, that becomes a human being with bones and organs and all of that, and then to think that it grows inside of another human being. So that's really not unlike what God said. I made you in my image and in my likeness. Now, if you look at it within the original language, it could be interpreted, I made you within my image and within my likeness.
That's a bit different there. That's not
It
the same
is.
thing.
Stretch.
It is. But when we think about childbirth, the child is made within the mother, within her image and within her likeness. You follow me? And then children have features like their parents. You know, so it's not far off how God is speaking all the time. Remember, communication is 75% nonverbal, without words. So that means through head nods, through eye looks and eyebrow raises or motions and hands and legs crossing, those kind of things. They're always communicating. They're always communicating. I know just by studying communication that the way that you all are looking at me right now, you're in what's known as the receiving position.
I know, and I know sometimes they say this posture is kind of like
the closed
but this is,
position.
me, this is like a, okay, I'm tuned in posture, you know what I'm saying? But then it's funny you just said it because as I did it, I thought about it, and that's why I kind of released and put my arms down because I was like, when you start saying the body language and all that, I was like, well, hold on, let me not just sit in this posture. Okay, but
but that's what it does. You know, you pick up on those cues when you study it, right? But
So he communicates through other people.
Yes.
Oftentimes in messages of 3, repetitions of 3.
Yes, sir.
And then what's the second one again?
And the second one is through nature.
Through nature.
Right. So what did he do in the beginning? Created the heavens and the earth. Also within scripture, it says that all of the creation of God testifies that he is.
Yeah.
That he exists. Right?
Right.
I like to play golf. Sometimes I play at playing golf. You know, I used to be real good, but when we started the ministry, golf game went 40 south, you know. But I'm trying to get, because some guys invited me back out, and then the wife said that was okay. That you got to make sure you get permission, right? Yeah. But nonetheless, when I am on the golf course, and I was telling the brother this yesterday, when I am on the golf course, I cannot but stand in awe of God, because it has been stated that the golf course aesthetics, architecture, and design is some of the most beautiful scenery on the planet. You know, when you go to golf courses, and there is this serenity, there is this peace that comes from just being in nature. If you've ever been out on the ocean, you realize how insignificant you actually are.
Yep.
Right.
And especially on a dark night filled with stars in a full moon.
Yeah.
You just cannot but help be amazed. I just don't believe that individuals, now this is my own personal belief, but those that have been on the seas, that when on a dark, star-filled night,
Right.
you just have this moment like, wow. And you feel how insignificant you actually are.
Right. Right.
It seems like you were going to comment on that, brother. Right?
No, well, I wasn't, but I did have the thought that here on the plains is very similar to being on the open seas. And I know we had people, dog on Lubbock and the surrounding areas because it's flat. But I think that's one of the things that I like about the area is I get that same feeling when you can stand somewhere and look, and as far as you can see. That right there tells you that, wow, who made this?
Yeah.
Somebody made this. And it's not the ocean, but it has its own beauty. So that's kind of what my thought was on that.
Absolutely. You can go right down to May Simmons and get out on one of the docks and fishing, and you just like, my goodness.
Yeah.
I don't know, Pastor, because I take it differently. May Simmons and being on a cruise ship at night under the stars in the darkness of the. At first I was in awe, and then I started kind of getting scared a little bit because I was just like, I seen too many movies. First of all,
Yeah.
So my mind started running in every direction.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And at first I was kind of like you say, you can just see everything, like the waves, the water, everything's going on, and then you kind of like you said, everything starts smiling, getting smaller, and it's like, man. It's
Yeah.
like just a speck of dust or something in the big scheme of this, man. And it's kind of like then at the same time we can have so much impact though.
Yes.
And it's
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
years ago,
Right.
when my daughter was a little girl, I think she was about 2, and we was down at Galveston, and we was on that barge down there
Mhm.
that takes
know
you
what you're
across.
talking about.
Yeah, it takes you across the water, and talking about that sense of awe. I had done that many times, and I'd like to do it when I was in college. So when I had my family, I took them to do it, and had Shanti sitting on my shoulder or something, looking out. And just being 2, she expressed, from the mouth of babes, she
Yes.
literally said, "Wow." Just looking at that open expanse of water. And that's just the Gulf of Mexico.
Yeah.
Which down by Galveston I ain't even gonna call that a beach. You know what I'm saying? That's a shoreline, but
Yeah.
it's still beautiful though.
It is. It is.
It definitely makes you feel insignificant. And it definitely makes you contemplate, must be somebody else out there
Yes.
doing this.
And each of these moments that or each of these characterizations of the voice of God, I'm basing them on personal experience.
Right.
So as a child, I was told that I was going to preach. And then I was told by other preachers, some that have gone on to be with the Lord, that my grandfather said that either me or my 2 brothers was going to preach. So you start hearing these words, and of
Right.
course, I am no preacher,
Right.
that kind of thing, and never really had that desire. I was blessed to get a full scholarship to Wayland Baptist University, ministerial scholarship. And one of the things that I had to do in order to get the scholarship, I had to write an essay. And speaking of which, when you were talking about writing poems, journaling, creative writing or journaling
Right.
is one of the spiritual disciplines.
Huh.
It's considered to be one of the spiritual disciplines.
Interesting.
And it's also very therapeutic.
Yes, it is. It is.
So I had to write an essay, and the title was, "How Do You Know You Have Been Called?" Well, I was like, because I know, at first, hard-headed, I know I've been called, that kind of thing right there. But when you go to higher education, you have to, give some type of credentialization of some understanding where that God is working in your life.
Right.
So having never done this before, it took me a while to get started. And I think I sort of started in the middle of it. And then, man, the Lord started moving, and I did not really understand that I was being called at an early age. But he said, a couple of my friends, one of my best friends who was in the military, a brother named Alvin White, I never knew that he and I had gone to the same elementary school.
Huh.
And so, I don't share this much, but I'll share it here. I'm not ashamed of this. But when I was 10 years old, I broke my left hip. And I broke it in the ball and socket joint. It was a very unique, weird break. And fast forward, it stunted the growth in my left leg. So to compensate for the differential, the bone extension surgery back then was not a thing. So from 10 years old, 5 years later, I'm 15. I'm playing ball at Estacado. And so the doctor said, I need to help you run a little bit better, whatnot. So they go into my right femur at 15 years old. So I broke my left hip. They go into my right femur and take out 4.5 inches.
Wow.
That was the difference. It was, it was my projected growth differential, right? So people don't know, but
So you're supposed to be 4 inches taller.
yes, yes. And so, a lot of my brothers, growing up, homies and stuff like that, be like, man, you got some long arms and some big feet, and big hands and stuff like that. and you short, you stubby,
Yeah.
your name fits you.
Yeah.
But they don't. Then I had to tell them, nah.
Well, see, I'm
actually
already
shorter.
mad now because you taller than me, and you had 4 inches removed.
Yeah.
Come on,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
Everybody taller than me. What's that?
So it's a thing, right? And it can be devastating, but rather than letting it be devastating, I chose to let it be divine because I knew God was working in there some kind of way. So Alvin brings me a picture that he had of, no, I'm sorry, I'm messing that one up. He told me a story about a kid at his elementary school.
Oh, yeah.
That it seemed like the whole school united around this kid that had an accident. And he said, man, I could remember the whole school was in mourning. And I was like, man, so I'm listening to this story, and I'm like, okay, man, talk to me about it. He said, well, Bill, you were the kid. It's like, man, you didn't even go to my elementary. He said, man, I did. And I remember the accident that you had when you broke your hip. And everybody in the entire school was devastated. And I was like, what? And so I had never heard this. He said, yeah, man, it was on announcement. I wouldn't hear it because I'm in the hospital.
Right.
And so it was at the end of school. It was May 10th of 1980. And so the next day we having play day. That used to be the thing
It sure
in elementary.
Yep, it sure
and the
was.
only thing I asked the doctor was, am I going to be out tomorrow for play day? And I ended up being in the hospital my whole summer.
Wow.
Because I was in traction for like 6 weeks, with that thing, and had a body cast on for 2 months. It was crazy.
Man.
But he remembered it. He remembered, and I knew that he was talking about me because the entire school sent cards, and my particular class showed up, and they all signed my cast and all that kind of stuff and everything like that. But I had no idea that Alvin was at the school because that's when busing was a thing. And because of the accident, I missed that bus year, off year, and I was there at the same time he was, but I didn't know who he was. Then another occurrence was while I was at Wayland, one of the girls who I was in class with, who was bused from Stubbs Elementary School. Her name is Jennifer. I'm forgetting her. Her maiden name was Hickman. Forget her last name, her married name now. While I'm in the halls of Wayland, she recognizes me, runs down and just say, Bill, how are you doing? So on and so forth. And she pulls out a picture of us in 6th grade. And I'm like, okay, who keeps 6th grade
Pictures
right.
in their purse.
But here's the thing. She said, I knew at some point in my life I was going to see you again. Now, that just gives me chills every time I think about this.
Right.
And so she was keeping it specifically for an encounter
Oh, wow.
for me.
To help rekindle your memory to say, well, I don't remember. You know what
So-
I do.
So did she say why you made such an impression on her?
The same thing that, it was just like, I remember when, and it was the whole thing. I remember when you had your accident.
Oh, yeah.
How just you always was such a happy kid and so smart and everything like that. And you just had a big impact on our class. And, but here now I'm in my 30s. I'm going to school at Wayland. I never thought about Jennifer. And what are the odds that I'm walking down the hall and I hear somebody yell my name in the same campus,
Right.
and she comes running down the hall, and the thing that she wants to do is give me this picture, and she's kept it for a meeting that she had faith would happen. I never planned to go to Wayland.
Right.
My desire coming out of high school actually was to go to either A&M or UT for aerospace engineering. But the old mother say, if you ever want to make God laugh, plan your life out.
Yeah. Yeah.
You make your own life plan.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so nonetheless, she just, it's like out of nowhere, like how this is just that moment where you know how God had orchestrated this encounter for years.
Right.
And she had faith to believe that this would happen.
Looked like God had already told her, in other words. She got
Absolutely.
clearly he spoke to her about it. You know what
I
I'm
believe so, right?
Mhm.
And then in the picture, it's so funny. I'm in the very center of the picture.
Huh.
And all of these people are around me.
Right.
And it just blew my mind because I then showed this picture to Alvin. And Alvin is like, man, don't you see what God is doing? All the different men and women that are surrounding you, the different ethnicities and backgrounds and races, and he's placed you right in the middle of it.
Right.
And they all united around an event that happened in your life.
Huh.
And so I'm just blown away. So I'm using these moments to talk about how do I know I've been called, right? In 2015, I'm not 2015. In 2005, a devastating event happens that we know as Hurricane Katrina. At that particular time, my wife and I were out on a cruise ship celebrating our 10th anniversary. And we're in the Caribbean. Well, we get a call over, the Admiral speaks over the PA and says, we're not going to be able to go to the next port because of the hurricane has made landfall.
Right.
So it didn't impact us at all as far as turbulence or anything like that. The whole cruise was calm. But what it did, it turned our 7-day into a 10-day and gave us an additional port of call in Ocho Rios, Jamaica. This is significant because for me, I had what is known in the world of theology as a theophany.
Oh, right. Revelation of God in your life, is that?
Where he himself manifests himself.
Huh.
Okay. So in the moment where, say, Abraham meets the angel of the Lord.
Right.
Right. And it's 3 friends. The 3. And they all are God in the story, in the Genesis account. And they all speak with the voice of God. So the definition of a theophany is an appearance of the Godhead in your life in some shape, form, or fashion, right? So I'm on the promenade deck at that particular time. We're about to weigh anchor, pull anchor, and head back out to sea, leave the port, right? So I told my wife I'm gonna go up and just watch them untie the ship because that's,
It's fascinating.
It is those huge ropes, and you see them pulling them off, and then they're pulling up the anchors and all that kind of stuff. And while we're doing this, it is crystal. And if you've ever been to Jamaica in the Caribbean, the seas are crystal. So I understand when you call it Galveston,
Yeah.
a shoreline or whatever.
Right.
You get out there in the Caribbean, the water is crystal blue. And you are just blown away at how blue it is. And it's like you can see the seabed, right? And the marine life and everything like that. So it's crystal blue. And they're heading out. And then out of nowhere, it's like these storm clouds. They come in and they come in fast.
Right. Yeah.
But they come in rolling over Blue Mountain, Jamaica. That's the mountain in Jamaica, right? And I'm watching this. And then out of nowhere, rain begins to fall. Now understand, this is what I believe I saw and experienced, right? Rain begins to fall with no clouds in the sky over the boat or over the ocean. There are clouds over the mountain, but now we're out at sea. We're moving away from the island. And then it's like the raindrops stop and they're just suspended in midair. So much so that I could take one and hold it. If you've ever seen Now You See Me, the movie, the second one, the magician's in there, there's one guy who makes the rain stop.
Right.
Right. And so anyway, it's that type of moment for me. And now I'm just tripping. And I think, and I literally, I remember this distinctly. I stopped a couple, and on a cruise ship, it's so many different nationalities. And this couple was passing by, and I just grabbed, like, do y'all see this rain? This rain, and they like jacked away. And it's crazy American. He come from Jamaica, he's had something. That kind of thing,
Yeah.
And so
Jamaica's finest.
Yeah, and I'm just like, man, people are just walking past me and looking at me. They're really tripping out. And then the cloud that's over the mountain, it just descends like, it's almost like it's smoke. And it comes down fast and it forms a hand. And right across where the wrist would be is a rainbow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I hear the voice of God say it, because I'm not preaching at this time. I hear the voice of God say, I've called you to move mountains, and you're not doing it. I need you to do what I've called you to do. So when it came like it was as if the mountain was now a pear, and it was just pulling it, and it was going to pluck it. Because there's a scripture that says, if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, and believe and don't doubt, you can speak to this mountain, and it will be removed and cast into the sea.
And Jimi Hendrix said he could stand up next to a mountain and chop it down with the edge of his hand. I don't know if that's the same thing, but
I can't speak to his faith. Jimi Hendrix' faith. Now, Jimi Hendrix was from Jamaica. He was on some stuff.
Right, he was definitely on something.
Or not Jimi Hendrix. I was thinking of Bob Marley.
Oh, right.
But nonetheless, it was just that moment, and man, I just started crying. I mean, I was on the deck, I was kneeling down, praying and everything, and literally people were looking at me like, man, this dude, there's something wrong with him. And so I went back to the cabin and I told my wife, man, and I just fell in her, in her arms and just told her, hey, the Lord is telling me I need to get to work.
Right. So he spoke straight up through nature at that point.
Yep.
Raindrops stopping in the air.
Yep.
So that's through other people, through nature. And then what's that third one?
The third one is through events, circumstances, or situations. Events. So biblically, the creation account is an event in and of itself. The cruise is an event. The hurricane is an event. In Proverbs 10:25, it says, when the storm comes, the wicked stuff is washed away, but the righteous things remain a firm foundation. I'm sort of paraphrasing a couple of different versions of translations. And so storms are events, okay? Situations, circumstances, a promotion on your job, an idea, a start of something different. God is always speaking in those moments. The flood in and of itself in the Bible is an event. God was speaking. He said, this is a baptism. I'm cleansing the earth, right? The blackout in Texas, right? The whole state frozen over. Believe that was a moment where God was speaking, those kind of things. So events and circumstances, me breaking my hip. Right. So when I asked God, why did that happen in my own prayer time? And he said, I heard this clearly. It was like, you were going to be too big for me to use. I was like, what? Yeah, because you would depend on your own strength and not me. You would declare that you made you and that the things that happened in your life, you did that. Right. But I needed you to be humble. And I was like, well, you didn't have to cut me down the size. Right. And he said, you needed to be cut down the size.
Interesting.
So that event, it was, the Bible states it like this. He makes all things work together for the good of those who love him.
This is true. Yeah.
So then Paul says it, what will separate us from the love of God? And he lists all of these occurrences or these events, right? So those moments, events that happen in our life, when we are prayerful and seeking God on them, he'll speak to them.
You know what? Years ago, I tell y'all a story about something that happened to me when God spoke to me one time, and this was in 1996 or something like that, and I had just joined the Air Force. I was out in Monterey, California, and at the time, I was dating a young lady, and we were engaged. We got engaged, and unfortunately, everybody in the military already knows don't make big life moves while you're in basic training and tech school. But here I was in tech school trying to get engaged to this young lady, and we had known each other in college. I went to Wiley College over in Marshall, Texas. So I met her down there. She joined the Army. I joined the Air Force about a year later. Then we got together, got engaged. So long story short, that tech school romance, of course, was not working out. It was horrific. It was really weighing down heavily on my life, and we was going through some turbulence and some problems. And I'm not even ashamed to say I was at a bar in Seaside, California, right next to Monterey. And it's like 1:00 in the afternoon, and I'm drinking, sitting there with a beer, upset. There's a tear in my beer, you know that old.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, she's heavy on my mind. It ain't working out like I thought it would. And one of the things that I notice is the Lord always seems to speak to me through homeless people or vagabonds or hobos, whatever you want to call them. People that you normally won't give the time of day to or might not be inclined to give the time of day to. Always, whenever I'm having some issues when I was younger, it would be a person like that would come and would already know the issue and would tell me something that would be like, how you know that? Why are you telling me that? How? So I'm sitting in this bar and Oak Tree Lounge. It ain't even there no more because I went back years later. Anyway, sitting in this bar, drowning my sorrows, and a lady comes in off the street. Now, keep in mind, it's early afternoon. It ain't really nobody in the bar. It's me, maybe a dude right there, the bartender, and then she comes in. And when I looked at her, I said, I just knew. I said, man, she gonna sit right next to me. I just knew it. Somebody there. So anyway, I'm gonna wrap it up. I look like I scheduled my guests a little too closely, and the conversation was real interesting. But anyway, she came up to me. She sure enough sat next to me. I was like, here we go. And she reached over and she reached in her bag. She had a bunch of, bag lady type of situation. She pulled out a book and she was tapping on it. Look at this book. Look. She didn't say nothing. She was just tapping on it. She was like, and I got the book and looked, and it said, do you need to hear a word from God? If you do, just ask and he will, I'm paraphrasing, but if you do, just ask and intently believe that you will get an answer, and you will. Yeah. And I was like, really? Okay. I said, well, you know what? What have I got to lose? I'm going to do it. So I said, God, can me and this young lady, can we make it? Are we going to make it? I mean, can we make it? And I said, I was believing I'm going to get an answer. And I gave her the book back, and she went on in the back in the bathroom somewhere. I didn't see what she did. And she went in there and did something. And then I went in there later. She wasn't there. I didn't see how she left. I'm sure she just walked out, but I didn't notice her leave. So I'm sitting there. I was like, see, here we go. All right. Well, just as I was about to kind of dismiss the whole episode, man, the jukebox came on. Nobody put no money in it. I don't know how it came on exactly, but it came on. It was Sly and the Family Stone. And it was some song I'd never heard by him. He said, however, it starts off, the little music, dun, dun, dun. And then he just launched in, you can make it if you try. And I missed it at first for a few seconds. I was just like, he said, you can make it if you try. I just asked him, can me and old girl, can we make it? And he literally said, you can make it if you try. Now, I didn't get married to that chick, so I don't think we tried hard enough. But that right there was a perfect illustration that, God does speak to you.
And that's interesting. Just to kind of piggyback on the conversation, what you say, man, it's powerful. That's why I like men of faith. And I listen so intently, because to say it was things that happened and you just were moving too fast in life to even know it was right. He was trying to get your attention like, hey, right here, man, hey. And like you say, man, you so caught up in emotion or whatever's going on in your life at that time, man, you don't even pick your head up, man, to see the golden road is right there. You kind of kicking rocks over here and and it's like, man, I can think of a lot of times in life where people have told me things like what you're saying. It's going through my head of the different people at different times saying the exact same thing, and I'm just kind of like, like how you saying, like, okay. But I've always had faith, man. And even in times of life of hardship or like you say, trying to plan and things not going according to plan, what in my life and my understanding, what I've come to realize is that by putting the Most High first in everything you do, then that way when you plan, your plans go according to plan because they are a part of his plan. And it was a part of understanding in life how to stop, bro. You're in control, but you're not in control. You know what I mean? Like, you in control of the vessel, but it's orders coming down from on top, man. It's telling you where to go. Right. Just slow down. Right. And proceed as, like they say, if he has plans for our life that are already, why not proceed in faith in the journey that he has set for us
and the plan that he's prepared.
Yeah, and I yield to you, gentlemen.
Indeed. Gentlemen, this is an awesome conversation. I hate to cut it short, but we have our next guest on tap.
Yeah. Hopefully you will be back with us, Pastor Stubblefield.
If I get the invitation.
Yes,
you already got the invitation. We just got to work out the time because
exactly.
I feel like we got to finish this discussion. But also we got some other things that we're going to get
Absolutely.
into.
Absolutely.
Indeed.
Again, I thank y'all for having me, and it's an honor and a privilege, and I pray much success.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
For it. And if I know you're getting ready to close out, but could we just close out with a quick prayer?
Definitely.
Definitely. So Lord, we just want to glorify you and magnify you for this time and this space and this opportunity. I pray that the seed of this podcast will bud, blossom, and produce much fruit, that you would open many doors of opportunity for Brother Robert and for Brother Cameron, Lord, in what they have put forth as an endeavor to do, to honor the memory and the legacy of Brother T.J. Patterson, Lord, with the Southwest Digest podcast. May they tell great stories. May they have great guests. And above all, may their listeners be intrigued, engaged, involved, and inspired to become better. We pray for those listeners right now, Lord God. We pray that somebody who might be listening, who might be feeling ill, who might not be at their best right now, we pray that something has been said that inspired them, that they know now that you are speaking to them, and that they hear you, and that their faith is increased and their joy overflowing. So we'll be careful and quick to give you the glory, the honor, and the praise. In the mighty name of Christ Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Yes, sir.
And I think that's a perfect way to close it out.
Yes, sir.